Hi everyone, it's Jen, and welcome to the Altenew and Picket Fence Studios Stampwheel video hop. The first card is going to be a simple one-layer wreath card using the smaller elements from the Ghosts of Halloween Past stamp set from Picket Fence Studios. We're going to use the Altenew stamp wheel to create a perfect wreath, and I'm going to get a little bit of support and help from their alignment guides, which I think are really great. There's four different ones in the pack, but I'm going to use the standard A2 one, and that just makes sure that the wreath fits perfectly on an A2 card, which I find personally really helpful, and I love it. I'm going to pop my A2 Copic friendly card base in where the alignment guide is, and then remove that out of the way. It sticks nicely to the base, so there's no issue. You don't have to glue anything down. And then I'm going to go ahead and place the lid over top, and this is where you can see there's some like built-in wreaths. So if you line up your little stamps or whatever you're using, you will see that it will follow that pattern. So that's what I've done for this first layer. In fact, I've done it for all 3 layers. So we're just going to go ahead and repeat this. I move 2 notches every time. And then that just, because the stamp is quite small as well, I just wanted to keep a little gap in between them. And I think this works out really well because the gap will serve as like a place, like a marker for my next stamp, which is the little, slightly larger pumpkin in the set. So there's some little notches on the stamp wheel, which I'm using again, and it's just going to kind of follow the pattern all the way around, and also make sure that there's enough distance between the little bat at the bottom and so the pumpkin isn't touching it. So we're going to go ahead and do exactly the same thing, and I'm using some hybrid ink from Picket Fence Studios. So this is Copic friendly, and also you can use it with watercolors. So I'm just going ahead like in between those bats, so it's a slightly staggered wreath. And then I'm going to use the little witch hat, which I think is super adorable. And exactly the same way. So I lined it up, I put it in between the pumpkins. The only difference is on the left side and on the right side in the middle, I skipped those areas because it would only get a tiny bit of the witch hat in, and I didn't think that it would look very nice. So we went ahead and skipped. You'll see here that we don't go in the middle, and we just go down. So instead of 2 notches, it was 4, just on those sides though. We used the Boo stamp from the same set, placed it right in the middle of the wreath, and that is your clean and simple 1-layer card stamping done. We're going to go ahead and do some basic Copic coloring. So the bats, we have V04 and RV19. So just 2 colors for those because they're very small images. The pumpkin, we're going to go ahead and use 3 colors. So the first one, the darkest one, is YR04. And that's just going to lay down some, some dark colors around the edge and around the mouth as well. We're going to go in with the mid color, which is Y18, and that's just going to lighten that pumpkin up a little bit. And then the last color is going to be Y04, and we're just literally going over the whole pumpkin, including the mouth, right in the center of each one. So very simple coloring. We've added some G05 just to the stem, 1 color. We've got G09 for the witch's hat, and then YG05, which is a mid-tone, and then we move to YG01 for the light color. I also use C9 for the buckle. Once I added the colors to this hat, I just repeated the same process on the rest of them on the card, and that is your coloring done. So looking at this, when I finished, I wasn't 100% happy with the purple bats. I thought I wanted them to be a little bit brighter, so I will have to revisit my Copics at a later time to see if I can get a better color combination. But it looks really great, and to tie the purple in, I'm going to go in with some Wilted Violet Distress Oxide ink around the edges. Now, I didn't mask any of this off. As you can see, there's enough of a gap in between the wreath and the card edge that you can get some really nice color on there. So that's exactly what I did. No masking, and it didn't ruin any of the images at all. So if you wanted a really soft ink blending, you could have left it at one layer. I've gone in for a second to kind of deepen the edges and to make the wreath pop a little bit off the card. We're going to finish with some sequins. I think these are called I'm Alive, but I will link them in the description below. And these are stunning, stunning, stunning. They would make a beautiful shaker, but I just wanted to use 3 little sequins in the set just to fill in some of that white space in the middle. And I think that it's a great 1-layer card. We've got a little bit of ink blending, a little bit of Copic coloring, and it's ready to post. I went ahead and ruined my card with some water on the left bottom, if you can see that. So I went ahead and made a clean and simple card, adding an additional sentiment, and then made a 3rd card accidentally with green instead of purple to match the first one. My second project is more layered, and so we are going to use this Haunted Moon layering stencil from Picket Fence Studios. It's really long. It's a slim line, so it's really long, but there are cut lines. So there's 3 sections of it. So I've gone ahead and cut on the cut line to make it more manageable for my storage. And as you can see, there's little holes in each corner as well for your perfect alignments. You also get the waist from the largest moon, which is what I'm going to use here on my watercolor panel. So we've gone ahead and just pop that on. I think I've got some pixie spray on it. And then we're going to make a beautiful haunty green background with Twisted Citron, Distress Oxide. And then we're going to go in with like a mid green, which is Mowed Lawn, which is really lovely. Just start around the edges. The reason I did it this way is because I wanted to make sure that the Twisted Citron blended properly around the edge of the moon, because I wanted that the lightest. And so once I've done that, I went in with a darker color, the darkest green I have, which is Rustic Wilderness. And I think these 3 colors together make a really like spooky green combination, and I love it. We're just going to go ahead and pick that off our stamp wheel now and give it a good wipe, and then grab some water, just some plain water. And then that's just to add some splatter to the background, and then we're going to wipe that off with a paper towel. Once we've done that, if you just bend the card base slightly, then that moon stencil will just be easy to pop off. Because we used the waist, we have the perfect circle there, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the remnants of my ink on that first layer. The second layer, we're using Hickory Smoke, very fine, a very light layer. And then for the last layer, we're going to go in with Hickory Smoke again, just make it a little bit deeper, so you get a darker impression. I think it's a beautiful moon stencil, and I love it. I went in after the stencils were removed and added a little bit of Twisted Citron around the edge just to give the moon a green tinge, and then brought in a small amount of black soot just on the bottom and those corners at the top. It just kind of pulls it all in together. I'm using the Inappropriate Halloween stamp set alongside People Are My Favorite Mummy 4x4 stamp set. So I'm just stamping this out on some Copic friendly paper, and I am going to grab my 3 grays, which are C1, and I'm literally going over almost the whole mummy in C1, as you can see here. It's very basic. I just don't want him white. And then we're going to go in around every other line there. We've gone in with the C3, and then the C5 I've just pulled in some shadows just at the edges on the larger areas and on his feet and hands as well. There's a coordinating die set with this People Are My Favorite Mummy, so I went ahead and grabbed that and die cut him out, but I also wanted to use another sentiment from the set, and I think it says "Ew People." And so I stamped that out and then die cut that at the same time. I also grabbed some seam building dies. They're called Gross Tufts, and I thought they would go really, really well at the bottom of this card because it just felt a little bit, it felt a little bare. So I cut them out in watercolor card and then just used some paper pouncers with the same greens that we did before. So I went in with Twisted Citron, and then I went straight into Rustic Wilderness as well because I wanted them to be quite dark. Once those little grass tufts dried for a couple of minutes, they were just a little bit too light for me. So I went in with 2 Copic markers. I went in with C9, and that just really tied in that very dark bottom that we had on the card. And then I just did a few quick lines with the C5 as well. And I just think that it kind of grounded the grass tufts into the very base of the card. So I'm really glad that I did that. Now all of our ink blending and coloring is done, we can go ahead and start assembling our cards. So that very first bottom base I just used with glue, and the rest of them I popped up with foam pads. I wanted the card to have a little bit of dimension because the first card that we made was just like a single layer card. So I popped him up. There's no foam pads on his feet, so everything was aligned. And then I went ahead and add both of the sentiments. So that "You people" at the top, and then on the bottom it says "I'm only here for the booze." I think it's a really funny card. It's sweet and cute, and it's I love the colorway as well. So our card panel is 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and we're going to pop it up with some foam from Picket Fence Studios onto a black A2 card base. We're going to add some sequins, and we are finished. And let me tell you, it has been a day. My Archon mount broke. I got water on my first card. I ended up having to remake it, and then I kept it clean and simple and added a different sentiment, which you'll see in a second. And then I had to make it again, but instead of using purple, for some reason my brain wasn't functioning and I ended up using green. So there's the ruined card, there's the clean and simple with the new sentiment, and there's the green boo, along with that second card that I made, the mummy card. Thanks for swinging by today, and don't forget to visit all of the other YouTube hoppers for the Altenew and Picket Fence Studios Stampwheel video hop. Thanks ever so much, guys, and I hope to see you soon.